It's gonna get real ugly.
You're listening to PHP Ugly episode 146. I'm your host, John Congdon. With me, as always, my good friend, Eric Van Johnson.
How are you doing? What the hell is that?
I have no clue. And Thomas Rideout. Oh, that was
dragging through the mud, man. What's going on?
I just finished a 12-hour shift about 10 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at least get your priorities straight. Finish a shift.
Yeah.
Get over here right away. I like it.
If you remember closing last week's episode, I said that we're doing a big DNS move.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I do remember that conversation. Yeah.
That was supposed to be Monday, wasn't it?
It was, yes. And everything went fantastically. It was great out the door, perfect. I didn't have to worry as much as I was worrying. But we have in the range of a couple thousand other records that we have to maintain DNS-wise. So we've been touching little things here and there over the last week. And today, a bug in the API I was calling deleted 3 whole zones. So in the range of 500 records total for those 3 zones.
A bug in the API you were calling, or a bug in the code you wrote to call the API?
I have an actual email from our host saying our engineers were able to confirm that this was an issue on our side.
Oh no.
So it was just the fact that their system had a failover that would fetch a zone record if you tried to fetch a regular A record in a very specific pattern of use, and I had just dropped that into place and executed it, and I was supposed to be deleting 3 or 4 A records, but I deleted MX records, mail keys, the whole shebang for the whole company, because the first 3 domains were the corporate domains. So it wasn't like the site went down, it was like the business went down.
Oh my goodness. But it still wasn't your fault. You just triggered a bug on their end, right?
Yeah. It wasn't my fault. It was my fault for not doing things the exact same way they had been working all week. I had just taken a slightly different tack on one line of code, and that was the bug that got triggered.
Oh.
So, I mean, I had been working on this for 6 days straight now. I worked Saturday and Sunday, and then I executed my script Monday at 1 a.m. So I mean, it's been a long week already. And then today at 4:30, boom, everything goes down. So if I'm tired, it's because it's been a long week. And then today had been especially long. But now I have all these great tools for managing large-scale DNS records, and I know how to back up zone files and generate new zone files and all that lovely stuff.
Now, if you just moved it to AWS, you could use Route 53, and their API is probably way better. I wouldn't know if I haven't used it yet.
DNS APIs are simple stuff, really. It's just knowing that you're in a zone and not in a record, knowing that you're adding to a record or updating a record or deleting it. It's like it's generally very simple stuff. It's just that when it goes wrong, it crashes the whole plane.
See, up until probably around 2 or 3 months ago, I was still using Bind and editing files directly on Bind servers, reloading it. So I was just editing the raw zone record versus using APIs or going to some GUI to make little changes here and there. So I'm kind of new to all this stuff too.
Yep. It was a rough one today.
Sounds like it.
That's for sure. And then there's there's all this news.
Well, let's not talk about news. Let's let Eric bring us out of the funk.
Yeah, Eric, what do you got going on?
You started the show out way down here. Let's bring it back up.
Why are we turning for me for this? I got nothing.
You're good at it. What do you mean you got nothing?
I got nothing, man. I got nothing. I let's see, what can I talk about? I was listening to a podcast recently. I don't know if I mentioned it to you guys in the past, but I love coding. I love everything about coding. I love learning. I love executing.
You may have mentioned it about 1 week ago, exactly.
I may mention it on a fairly regular basis, but we're working on a new project. We've been talking about it. I mean, we're probably going on a year now of this new application we've been working on. And we're real close to kind of handing it off to the client so that they can start doing some demo work with it. It's not really even in a beta state yet. And a lot of that's because the client hasn't really had their hands on it enough to get their head around what it's doing, how it's doing it, and what they want it to do differently. But we're getting close to handing that off. But, it was our opportunity to implement a lot of new things the way we wanted to implement them, take advantage of a lot of patterns. We've talked about a lot of them recently, like event sourcing. And I came across a new pattern that I'm looking to kind of not shoehorn. I shouldn't imply that I'm forcing it in, but kind of an afterthought that I had heard about before, and it's called a state machine. I was listening to Jacob Bennett. Yeah, he was talking about he's been preaching about state machines for a while, and I've done some research on him. I'm like, okay, I kind of see where it's a nice to have thing, but I don't really see a benefit to it. And listen to a podcast he was on. Oddly enough, not one of his podcasts. He was a guest on another podcast where he talked about state machines, and something just really resonated with me. Like, okay, I need a state machine. So,
can you share that? Can you share that with me? Maybe put it in the show notes too. I'd be interested.
The podcast or state machine?
The podcast. I know what a state machine is. I'd like to hear this podcast where it resonated with you.
Yeah. I'll throw it in the show notes. But if you don't understand what a state machine is, and I think one of the things he may have made reference to, but what really started to resonate with me is how hand in hand event sourcing and having a state machine kind of go. I'm like, wow, I really see a lot of benefit. But if you don't understand what a state machine is, you probably have done it in the past yourself using Boolean logic of yes, no sort of things. But it really kind of tracks. Not only does it track the state of an object, for example, but it has some logic behind it to make sure that it doesn't transfer from one state to another state that doesn't make sense. So I guess the best example I can think of is you have a state machine for meetings, right? And meetings have certain states they can be in. You can be scheduling a meeting, you can be having a meeting, you could have had a meeting, or you could cancel a meeting. And what a state machine would do would track what state that meeting object's in. So is that meeting object being scheduled? People are accepting invites and they're trying to figure out the schedule. Is that meeting happening? Has it happened or has it been canceled? And a state machine would prevent you from going from having a meeting or scheduling a meeting to canceling a meeting to then having a meeting. The logic behind a state machine would dictate, hey, you can't have a state of a canceled meeting, then have a state of having a meeting. And the more I thought about that, and the more I thought about how it would apply to our application, it's like, yeah, I can see tracking a lot of things. And another use of it is like tracking a user's status through a platform, for example. Like if it's a status where they're leveling up or they have to complete certain tasks to be eligible for other things, a state machine would track that. And again, it's more than just tracking, oh yeah, they completed A, B, C, so now they're on D, but it also has logic that says, oh, they can't go from A to D, or maybe they can go from A to D, but there's logic in your code in the state machine that handles that for you. So you're not always doing this if, else, if, else. The state machine says, oh yeah, this is a valid path that this object can take for different states, or it's not a path it can take. So I've really started to see a lot of use for that, especially with the way we're using event sourcing and tracking of events.
Isn't that already kind of built into event sourcing as is? You can't go from event A to event C unless you follow the proper path. I mean, just like you said with the state machine, you can go from those events if it's permissible, but it blocks you if it's not.
Right. So it's very similar to event sourcing from that perspective, but it's not the same. Because event sourcing is just a journal of, hey, this happened, this happened, this happened. And if you want to play back those events, exactly what you said, John, you can't play back the third step of an event without playing back the first two steps.
Yeah, but just like with your meeting example, when you go to the accounting example in event sourcing, you can't have the event of refund if you don't have an event of charge. So there is an event machine, a state machine kind of built into the event sourcing piece of it.
I suppose if you wanted to build the logic out yourself, the packages I'm looking at help. It generates that logic for you of, so the example you just gave, John, you would have to build that logic of event sourcing where you're saying, okay, I'm doing a refund, look for an event that has a charge. And you probably want to do that regardless, right? For something as critical as a money transaction. But that's not being able to look at that object and know what state it's in. You have to play back your events. So you don't have any assurance. So, for example, let's say you were using a state machine for that transaction. You could look at the transaction and say, the transaction has been processed, right? And because you have a state machine, you can be pretty sure that it can't be in that process state unless it had passed everything else that it could have to get to the process state. To your point, to confirm that, you could play back the events to validate how it got to that state, but you don't need to, right? Because you have a state machine and you're confident that your state machine is tracking the state of that transaction correct. But it's good to have the event sourcing to confirm it.
Theoretically confident.
Right, theoretically. We know all about your Newton laws and black hole theory there.
I've just had my confidence shattered this week.
Or yeah, poor coding. Yes, that's always a thing. But it's more of a event sourcing is great to fact check things that have happened, where state machines allow you to push forward a little quicker and say, okay, here's where I'm currently at. I can't validate this. To our point, you have to have confidence in the state machine that got me here. But if you combine that with event sourcing, then you do have that ability of saying, okay, this object says it's in this state. How did it get to this state right here? And we could always play it back.
Interesting. Hey, Thomas, I kind of hacked Eric's computer recently.
Crap.
Did you add like 5 cameras to it?
No. We have a client who changes his avatar almost every week. We're on a meeting with them this week, and I'm like, I know who that is. So while we're on the call with him, I'm like, Keith, is that Eric the Midget? And he absolutely loved the fact that I knew the reference. I knew what that was. And for those that don't know, he was a character on the Howard Stern show. And
how did I guess?
He died a few years ago, but anyway, I knew the reference. And after the call, Eric was asking me who this was. So I explained it, and he makes the mistake of going to YouTube and Googling or searching that. And now all of his recommended videos are Eric the Midget.
I mean, I had a full page of recommended videos of Eric the Midget, and I was so pissed with John. I'm trying to quickly pull up the here.
Wow.
Let me see if I put it on Firefox and change Firefox to Slack. Where's Slack?
He sent me this screenshot, and I just cracked up laughing. It was hilarious.
This is. I mean, for those watching the video, this is what my recommended video list looked like after like 2 days of looking at and listening to literally 30 seconds of a YouTube clip of who this person was. Next thing you know, my recommended list is just cluttered with recommendations of videos of this person.
Which is crazy.
That's like, people have complained about YouTube driving people to extremist content the same way, where if someone sends you a flat earth video, now all of a sudden you're getting recommendations only for flat earthers and only just the most bizarre deep end of the pool stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that, especially now.
It'd be one thing if you watched lots of videos on a topic, but to watch one, okay, you throw 1 or 2 more in there, but to have all of your recommended slots filled like that is just crazy.
I think when YouTube has a pool of videos that has a really closed audience, and someone comes in from outside and checks out, hey, what's over here? Then YouTube wants to push all this content that they've been unable to push. So they just start pushing all of the whole swimming pool right in your face. They don't care if you liked it or not.
Yeah, that happened to me recently. I started watching some rock climbing videos, and now I just get inundated with a lot of, I don't know where these guys are from, but I think they're Sweden or over in the UK. I end up liking the videos, and I watch way more than I should. And now I want to get
you're the problem.
So their plan is working on you.
Yeah.
It is. Well, yeah. I've been talking to my wife about going to a rock climbing gym, taking the boys. Looking forward to it.
I strongly suggest doing that, especially with the kids. Kids are spider monkeys, man. Let them have at it.
They've been loving the tiny ones at the playgrounds. You know, that are 4 or 5 feet tall. So
Yeah.
Take them to a real rock climbing gym. They'll be in awe. So will I.
One of the cool things about San Diego is we have several of them, so it's really convenient, really easy and accessible.
Time and money.
Time, money.
Comes down to that.
Well, there you go. You have your kid's next birthday party planned out. They do birthday parties.
I'm sure
One of my kids' favorite birthday party they went to was their friend had a rock climbing gym, and that's what they did. It was fantastic.
Speaking of kids' birthday parties.
Nope. Not speaking of kids' birthday parties.
What did you do, Eric? What did you do?
Dude, I got old, Thomas. That's apparently what happened.
His girls turned 21 yesterday.
Ooh.
21.
21.
Oh.
I have 2 children who are 21 years old now. So we went out, had a nice dinner, did some shots. You know, it was fun and it was entertaining. We've never demonized drinking in our house. We never hid drinking from our kids. At a fairly young age, we always offered wine at dinner to our girls if they wanted it. They almost never took us up on it. I think they each did it once where they had a half a glass of wine.
When you say young age, you mean like 18, right?
Yeah, in the early teens. No, before 18. I mean, it probably. I think around 17 is when, we offered. And whenever we drank, if they wanted to taste what we're drinking, they could. So
you got to give them just enough to know that it tastes bad and has no effect on you other than tasting bad.
Right. So I think we were pretty fortunate. We know that they've tried a couple things. I mean, I know that last night was their first drink, and I feel like they've been pretty honest with me on the times that they had drank before, but which was very minimum. I mean, I was way guiltier of it when I was younger, so I'm not going to hold them to it or anything, but yeah, they had their first.
Not that you could anymore anyway. They're adults.
They had their first legal drink here in the U.S. Oh, that's the other thing. We've been drinking with them before down to Mexico. So we live here in San Diego. It's a border country to Mexico. Mexico is 18. We've been down there a couple times. They'd ordered pina colada or something. They took about 4 sips of it and hated it. So they've had opportunities. They just chose not to take advantage of them. I think they're good kids when it comes to that. But they had their first legal drink here in the U.S. yesterday. So I started them off with a shot of Jameson, and that was about all it took for my one daughter. She just about ended up on the floor just from the shot of Jameson. It was so cute. Oh man. But yeah, you know what? It sucks, man. Getting old sucks. Hate it.
I'm all right with it. I think I've worn it pretty well.
John. Appreciate it.
I used you to build us up and take us back down.
It's the vegan way.
Not sure where that came from, but okay.
Hey,
got to get a dick in there somehow.
What about you, John?
John came out of the closet too, since we're outing everybody.
Oh.
Do you follow him on Facebook?
I have not been on Facebook a whole lot lately.
Oh yeah, no, he had his national coming out to the public closet thing happen. I can let him explain it.
Yeah, so last Saturday, March 23rd, was the inaugural International Atheist Day, and it was touted as an atheist coming out day. And
his part of the group of, we don't believe in something and we want to tell you why.
That's not how it works. Anyway,
That's kind of how it works.
not quite. I've never hidden it. We've talked about it on this show. If you are a friend with me on Facebook and you look at my about page, my religion was atheism. So it's not like I hid it. I just made it kind of an announcement to people that don't look, and was basically sharing the information about the day and kind of what it meant. That's all. It wasn't a big deal. Eric's making it a big deal, and I don't know why.
I'm just trying to deflect attention from me.
Good work. Success. You get the prize.
If you're watching the stream, by the way, I want to apologize. The Discord chat feed is offline. Matter of fact, let me pop back on to see if by chance it's come back.
Just to see how offline it is.
Yeah, it's been offline all day, so it's
Wait, so you've had all day to fix this?
no, I mean it's something with Discord. It's not us at all.
Okay. The 502 error message from Discord. Nice.
Yeah. Discord is having some sort of issue. So yeah,
a lot of websites this week. Reddit, Facebook went down. People are losing their minds. Yeah, Facebook and Instagram went down for a couple hours.
I thought that was last week, wasn't it?
Was it?
I think it was last week. I don't think that was.
I've lost my spiritual connection to time, so I don't know what week is what right now.
Yeah, I saw that and was like, that's probably the best thing that could happen for society.
Yeah, probably.
You know, it happened. I didn't even notice it happened. So that's how good my life is.
Yeah, I didn't notice it until some people in Slack started talking about it. I'm like, oh, I guess there's some issue over here. And then they made it sound like it was a subset of users. Some users could still see Facebook and some users couldn't.
So I need to talk about Apple.
Actually, no, before you do that, let's go back to Facebook. Did you see that they were storing passwords in clear text?
Yes.
I saw the article fly by, but I didn't read it. And it was just that, right?
Yeah, it wasn't all passwords in. They made it seem like it was. I'm still not quite clear on the details, but some parts of the system had your passwords in clear text that Facebook employees had access to. And of course, they're saying that there's been there's no signs of any harm being done or, action being taken, but and
it's related to
audit, they see it, they found it and are correcting it.
It's related to Facebook Lite users, which is like a low bandwidth version. And I've never even heard of it before, but I mean, I didn't even bother reading the article because I saw it and I just went, yeah, of course that happened. Just a giant corporation that doesn't care about privacy was storing our passwords in clear text and letting people who worked for Facebook search through it. All right. Could be a lot worse. It probably is a lot worse.
It just shocks me. Like, how does that happen?
With Facebook, it's Facebook. It's how it happened.
Thomas, you were talking about Apple.
There were a slew of big company announcements this week. The first one was Google said they're launching Stadia, which is their streaming gaming platform. Mm-hmm. But that one will kill itself. That one won't really injure a lot of people when it goes down miserably. The ones that really concern me are, of course, since Apple's been working on a self-driving car for a long time now, they just announced the Apple credit card. Because you can't fund a car without getting a credit card. And as far as credit cards go, it's cool. It lets you do all these tech things that credit cards should have allowed you to do a long ass time ago, where
Oh, like what?
like you can say how much you want to pay off on your card on this circular sliding scale, and if you're paying off enough of your card at one time, then there's no interest rate on the balance. And as you reduce your payments, you can see the interest rate going up in real time. So as you're making payments, you can see what you're paying towards.
Yeah, that's majorly complicated. Okay.
They make it look nice and simple, where it's just got this dial, and as you raise or lower the dial, the interest rate changes, and that's the rate that you're paying for that block of cash.
Credit card off every month and don't pay any interest.
Yeah.
That's one of the ideas behind it, is that it will be a no interest card if you pay it off in full every month.
All of them
It doesn't have any fees. They're not all.
Yeah.
Oh no, there are some that will charge annual holders fees, and they'll automatically charge interest to those fees and stuff.
Well, yeah.
So is this just a Visa? Is this just a Visa?
Yeah, so it's a Visa. The number is generated inside the phone, and it's stored in the secure portion of the phone, which is tied into Face ID and thumbprint reading.
Yeah.
You know why it uses Apple Pay.
You know why I don't care about this? Because it will only be available on Apple iPhone.
Yep, 100%.
No. Not really. I really don't encourage people to do that. So.
What I'm excited about
Okay.
is somebody buying an iPhone with their Apple Card and then never paying it off.
Why would that interest you?
I don't know. This just the whole closed ecosystem drives me nuts. I don't know. I hate it. I think creating a new credit card for people that have iPhones is the most.
Well, it's not even
the most keeping up with the Joneses type thing you can possibly do.
Yeah.
It's like, I've got an Apple Card. I use Apple Pay, and it goes straight to my credit card, and then I can pay it off through my phone. And then they announced that if you want a physical card, you can order one, and they'll send you a titanium physical card that has no numbers on it. It just has the mag stripe. And I'm like, who cares? Is there a lot of theft based off of the number printed on the card nowadays? It just, the whole thing, it's so stupid. And in the classic Apple way, their commercial for it is just the most bleached, whitewashed, happy songs and people spending thousands of dollars on shoes garbage you've ever seen.
I really wonder what the adoption of Apple Pay actually is. I use Google Pay or Android Pay, whatever they're calling it today, all the time, but I don't know that everybody does that has an iPhone or an Android.
Well, I think, like I said, when I went up to Vancouver, love you, Vancouver, fantastic city you guys have there. But when I went up there, the expectation was that you were using Tap to Pay. So whether it's Google Pay or Apple Pay, whatever Apple's is, what's it called? Apple Pay?
Apple Pay, yeah.
Yeah. They have their expectation in probably 95% of the places I went was that you're using Tap to Pay. And I loved it. And I thought, yeah, this is the way it should be. I'm growing more and more frustrated by even like big chains here in the US. Walmart, for example, doesn't use Tap to Pay. Lowe's doesn't use Tap to Pay. They say they do, but they say it never worked. They're like, every time I'm going to any Lowe's, I'm like, do you have Tap to Pay? It doesn't work. It's like, does it not work or do you not have it? Because those are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know,
I mean, it lowers your integration costs if you just tell people to say it's not working right now.
Yeah, I think that's right. but I was loving it. And it, as an American, it took me a while to get used to it. It's like, okay, all I need is my phone. Fantastic. But yeah, I can't believe
Your
how
watch
long
doesn't have NFC?
my watch does not now.
Oh,
Which I'm very envious of yours does. It's definitely going to be the next time I get a smartwatch. That's going to be one of the things that it has to have is that I'm sorry, my watch does have NFC, but it doesn't have Google Pay on it for whatever reason.
oh, oh, so you're not on OS 2 or whatever it is, Watch OS 2.0.
I think I'm on the current. I don't know. We can look at it tomorrow. But to answer your question, and not that I had a question, but that is definitely one of my next smartwatch that will be a requirement is to have that tap to pay on my watch.
I love it. I use it all the time. My only complaint is it can be slow, especially when I want to switch cards between the business card and my personal card.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be prepared well before I get to the counter, wherever I'm paying.
We don't say slow. We say deliberate.
Do you switch on your watch or your phone? Because
My watch.
oh, okay. Because for me, using the phone, it's seamless. Matter of fact, since getting the Pixel 3, I've had the best experience that I ever had. I had the S8 before, and that was frustrating because every time I tried to use Tap to Pay, I would have to initiate the use. It would fail, prompt me for my security code. I'd put in my security code, then it would work. And every time it happened, I knew it was going to happen. I would tell the cashier, it fails the first time, don't worry. I tap it, she goes, that didn't go through. You want to try again? Oh my God, I just told you it was going to fail. Just give me a second to put in my code. But with the Pixel, it works seamlessly. I switch between my cards. It's quick. I tap, and it's the quickest response I've gotten so far.
I haven't
But
used it on my
that's the
Pixel at
phone.
all.
Yeah.
I haven't even tried it on my phone because of the watch.
Well, the next big thing from Apple was the announcement of their Apple TV Plus subscription service. And if you thought that the credit card commercial was full of itself, just wait till you see Steven Spielberg talking about how great it is to be a movie producer, because oh my God, it's so mind-bendingly awful. But they trot
Oprah
out
there too.
Say again?
Didn't they have Oprah there too, talking about it? That she's gonna be doing something with it.
Not Oprah. Is Steven Spielberg, J.J. Abrams, M. Night Shyamalan, Ron Howard, Octavia Spencer, Sofia Coppola. God.
So I mean, are they
from
going to have
Friends.
exclusive content or something? I mean,
Yeah. So they're gearing up for tons.
Making their job so much easier.
They're gearing up for tons of exclusive content. They say they're expecting to spend $2 billion on production this year. They've got, it looks like from the video, they've got a studio that is ready to go for content creators. They're being more liberal, I guess, with the approval of content.
The big question is, do they have a PHP podcast show yet? And do they want one?
They don't. And they don't.
Damn it.
Sorry. I reached out to them and they said, please stop calling us, sir.
And can you remove your show from iTunes? Thank you.
We know who you are. We don't want any more.
Yeah, I saw this. Again, just like the iPhone credit card and all that other stuff, we have to live in that ecosystem. And I'm just not going to concern myself with anything like that. I mean, at least Amazon, you play on multiple platforms. I mean, everything else you play on multiple platforms. Is Apple TV going to be exclusive to Apple devices?
Um,
They, I actually believe they said that it is for the Apple TV app on iOS, Mac, Roku, Fire TV, and TVs from various manufacturers. So
As I
it
say,
will
if
be
I
a
can't get
broader
on, if I
spectrum.
can't get it on my Roku, I don't care. I still don't actually care. I don't know what they could be bringing to the game to impress me.
That's the thing, is they're bringing this talent lineup that really makes sense, except they're not bringing any content that anyone can recognize. So yes, they're bringing in Steven Spielberg, but the content isn't the next Indiana Jones. It's just some other Spielberg thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
but it has the potential if you get enough people talking about it, where now you get people like us that are like, oh, I guess I need to go watch whatever the next big show is on Apple TV Plus.
well, it reminds me a lot of Tidal, which was Jay-Z's subscription music service that had all of the great talent on it, but it bombed miserably. And I see all this talent that they have for Apple TV Plus, but then I look at what Disney Plus just announced they're going to have, which is everything to do with Marvel. So they've got all of the Netflix show, all the Marvel shows that are currently on Netflix are going to go to Disney Plus. All of the Star Wars content is going to be on Disney Plus. Everything Disney does is going to be on this one platform. And Apple TV is like, well, we have a drama by somebody you've never heard of. Like, well, I'm sure I'll find someone's account to borrow. But
Well, it's not like any of this is groundbreaking. Every other Hulu does it, Amazon does it, Netflix does it. Everybody has their own studio. Everybody have big name, big actors, big actresses, big directors, big producers producing these, and they all kind of suck. I mean, it's not that they suck; it's just they're just so they're saturating the market so badly. So
now, have you seen Love, Death, and Robots yet?
I have.
Because
That was weird, man.
that's awesome.
That was so weird.
A little too much random penis.
Strangest boners I've had in a long time.
Yeah, very confusing stuff, but really great short stories.
I did like the I did like the length of them. I thought they were a good. I think they were about 15, 20 minutes each.
So it ranged from about 8 minutes to 15 minutes.
Okay, all right, that sounds fair. And the scope of the stories were really good. There were a couple I thought were duds, but some of them were just dynamite little stories. I like things like that. Yeah, but yeah, there was a lot of.
What was the name of it?
Love, Death, and Robots. It's on Netflix. And if you want a good place to start that's just horrifying, the jumping to the wrong space station episode is just
Start with the first show. I mean, you don't have to watch them in order. They're not dependent on one another. But
yeah, it's just a collection of short stories that have to do
just
with
start from the beginning. It'll be easier to track where you're at.
yeah.
And there's only about a dozen stories. I don't remember exactly how many are out there, but
Yeah, I think there's 15 of them.
yeah.
But there was definitely, it was produced with a marching order. Somebody went to all these creators and said, here's your episode. Make sure that there's gratuitous nudity at least once. And make sure there's lots of gore. And then a nice twist ending. And then I was like, that's boom, boom, boom. It was just those three things 15 times.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, you're making me not that I'm going to watch it anyway. I wrote it down, and we'll proceed to forget all about it after we hang up. You're making me not want to watch it that much more. Perfect. Good job.
Oh, the episode when the yogurt took over might be my favorite one.
When the yogurt took over, I don't remember that one.
But when we accidentally breed yogurt into sentience and it takes over the planet.
Oh, dude, I can't recall that one. But
It's like
I believe you. I mean, that
claymation
sounds
style.
like the right. That sounds like the right. Oh, I do remember the claymation one. Yeah, you're right.
It's narrated by Brain from Pinky and the Brain. So yeah, if you haven't checked out Love, Death, and Robots, check it out. But make sure that the kids are not hanging out in the room with you.
You might want to make sure they're not in the house. Actually,
Yeah, there are some cases where it's just really unnecessary penis. just totally unnecessary in the fact that it showed up and the detail behind it is really.
he speaks the truth. I'm not. I wish he was exaggerating, but he's totally not exaggerating.
Again,
And there's
want to watch it less and less and less.
I guarantee you'll like some of it. But
Yeah,
yeah. Put the kids to bed first.
I subscribe, so I'm a big DC fan, right? The DC comic book franchise fan. Obviously, I'm a big Batman fan. Everybody knows this. And DC had a special. You could subscribe to their all access DC Universe package, which was their whole streaming service of all their DC products, all their DC movies, and then exclusive content just for their network. So they had the real life, not real life, but real action Teen Titans. I don't know how you word that. Not the
live action.
Live action. There you go. Teen Titans. And
the biggest takeaway of that show was fuck Batman.
Right. That was them showing their edginess, where Robin, makes that statement of "fuck Batman," right? So this
swing and a miss. Terrible.
This was them saying, "Hey, we're being edgy." They have a show in there that I actually like called Doom Patrol, but again, shocking how much nudity, vulgar language, and just gore that they have on that show. And the show itself has some pretty good actors in it, and it's a funny concept. It's basically like people who have these mutant powers, but they're really not superheroes. Like they just have these unfortunate conditions where they have mutant powers, and they're not good mutant powers either. They're like, it's hard to explain, but
one of them's just a robot, isn't he?
Yeah, that's. You know who that is? That's Brandon Fraser. What's his name? Brandon Fraser, the mummy guy from the original Mummy series.
Yeah.
That's him. And the only thing real about him is his brain. Everything else was replaced by metal. And it's not cool looking robot. It's like Frankenstein steel robot.
It's Red Dwarf quality.
Yeah. So it's entertaining, but again, it's like, if you got that for your children, thinking, oh, they can watch all the Superman and Aquaman cartoons that they want, you really want to go back there and maybe check what they've been watching, because there is some raunchy stuff on that network. Not that I have a problem with it. I'm a raunchy guy. I enjoy it. I'm one of those dudes. I'll go to a strip club. I like strip clubs. I don't care. I don't hide.
Where did this come from?
I'm just saying, I don't have a problem with raunchy.
What did you do this week?
When it's still in your face like that, it just catches me by surprise. What?
Jeez.
All the stuff you guys admit to, you think me saying I go to strip clubs is that bad?
It was just out of left, like it was just a weird thing to throw out there.
I think the last time I went was with Thomas's boss back in whatever that was.
There's a shocker. Whatever
was-
that was,
that-
Wednesday.
That was years ago.
Yeah, that was at a PHP conference in Chicago years ago. But
Yeah, I think did I go to a poker room that night? What did I?
you did something geeky and safe in a
Yeah.
safe space with bubbles
Yeah.
and stuff. I don't know what the hell it was.
Yeah.
That was just
Question-
it was a very
I'll move-
interview with the Supreme Court blurt there. I like strip clubs. I've always liked strip clubs. I still like strip clubs.
I'm trying to move us on here.
Sorry.
Do you guys back up your GitHub repos? Like, do you use a backup service for them?
Why would you?
GitHub is my backup service.
Exactly.
Yeah, my backup is my desktop.
I asked that because I had a client reach out recently and asked about backing up their GitHub repos, and there's actually a whole service dedicated to it called backup.co to back up your GitHub repos. And my comment was, everyone that has a clone of the repo has a full backup of it.
Right.
And his comment was that, well, yes, that's true, but there are also lots of other repos that they have in GitHub that people aren't necessarily working on continuously, and they may not have them. So I thought that was a fair point. I was like, this is a simple thing you could do very easily with a cron job to, hey, let me pull from upstream, and just make sure you list all of your repos I'm sure through an API call, you could do it as well. Get a list of your repos and fetch them, make sure you have them all down.
Iterate through them and then maybe throw them up on S3 or something. I mean,
Exactly.
I'm curious, I could potentially see the benefit of a service like this if does it back up all your branches?
It backs up your entire, the cool thing that it does that I didn't really think of, as well as your repos, I'm sure all your branches, it also does your GitHub issues, probably your pull requests. So all that metadata that you don't necessarily think of. But at the same time, I'm like, Thomas, doesn't GitHub have those backups? I would hope.
I know MySpace does, except for that one time they lost all the music from 2005 to 2012.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like GitLabs ever accidentally ran the wrong query and deleted half the repos on their
Yeah.
service. I mean, yeah. I can't imagine why you'd want to back it up.
Yeah, it sounds like paranoia, John. It's a lack of protein.
No, I agree to a point. Like I said, every developer who has a clone has a quote unquote backup. Everywhere it's deployed. I mean, that's your live code. I mean, that's the code you're worried about. But it would be interesting to know. Well, it is interesting to hear that it backs up things like your issues and your pull requests. And it would be interesting to know if it backs up all your branches, because I could see where a branch might get abandoned and eventually deleted. And then a year later, somebody says, oh, yeah, you remember I created that branch to address this issue, and you guys decided it wasn't important. And being able to go to a service and say, okay, last year there was a branch called blah, blah, blah. And finding that may be beneficial if you're a huge corporation. But yeah, I don't know. Is it cheap? I mean, because if it's
I
not
don't know.
cheap,
Yeah, I was going to say $5 is $5. If you're a company, it might be worth it.
It's not too bad on pricing. They do it by number of repos you have. So 10 repos is $9 a month. 30 repos, $18 a month. So not horrendous pricing.
I mean, here's a silly idea. Like you said, you use a cron or the APIs and check out of one service and check into the other service.
Yes. Like I said, this seems like a service targeted towards people who would think that's a good idea and then write their own version of it.
I was reading they do back up all your pull requests, but if you needed to restore to a GitHub repo for whatever reason, they can't restore it as a pull request. It would be restored as a GitHub issue. But still, interesting. But I again had the same thought. The simple cron script to do your own backups.
I mean, I'm sure I could just go to Packagist and look up backup GitHub.
I'm sure there's plenty out.
And yep,
You know, it'd be cooler than backing up your
GitHub archive.
You know, it'd be cooler than backing up your repos.
What?
If you could develop in the cloud using your favorite IDE editor, like
But I can't.
Studio Code. But you can.
That's not my favorite.
You can. No, it is your favorite now.
You said your favorite.
It is your favorite now. You can actually deploy Visual Studio Code onto the cloud. I heard about this a while back. You know, I put up the YouTube video. There's actually a Git repo out there as well. I think I have that. Yeah, I think that's there's the Git repo. I'll put it on there. I had heard about this about 2 weeks ago, and I thought I'd heard people talking about it, and I thought I'd heard them wrong, because I came back and I did a quick Google search and couldn't find it. I'm like, I must have misunderstood what they said.
All he got was videos of Eric the Midget.
Exactly. But somebody in our Discord channel posted links to it this week. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. This is what I was looking for. And it's the full-blown Visual Studio Code code editor that you get for your desktop. You can deploy it on a web server you have all it's not a watered down version of it. It's not some clunky JavaScript. It's very responsive. It's cool. I mean, it's an interesting idea. What I had hoped, and what is not yet the case, is that, like, for DiegoDev as a company, right? We could deploy this on a web server and give all of our developers accounts. So even further freeing up our remote developers to not only not need to invest in a code editor for themselves, which you may say, hey, well, they can just download Visual Studio Code themselves, but they also don't have to invest in an expensive laptop. They could just do all their development on something like a cheap Chromebook.
So that was my question. Have you tested it on Chromebook? Does it actually run well?
Yeah, I need to deploy it and test it. I have a couple of Chromebooks I can test it on, and in theory, it should also work on things like iPads and tablets and things like that. I watched the video. We'll link to the video in the show notes. I watched the video of the person, and it was snappy. It was responsive. Of course, it's using the resources on the server, so that's another benefit. You're not chunking away at your resources. But from what I could tell right now, it's kind of a one-for-one. It just deploys, it runs on a port, and you access that port. I assume you could probably deploy it multiple times on different ports and give it different passwords, but I don't know. I think, I feel like we're moving in that direction slowly but surely. I think people like us, developers, are kind of the last line of, people who have a requirement for physical machines like we use, and that requirement's getting smaller and smaller. And there's already services. There's already services out there that do this for you, and they all sort of work differently. But this is the first time where you could have a desktop version of this with all the plugins and all the configurations you like, and then have that seamlessly translate to an online version of it with all the same plugins, with all the same configurations, and the usability is the same. It's appealing. It's very appealing.
I dislike it.
Well,
I like a hot, powerful laptop next to me.
One that just hums all day long.
Well, when you're
No.
cold, you put it on your lap.
Yeah.
Kind of give it a hug, warm yourself up. Makes sense to
Nope.
me.
Nope. Not where I was going with that.
Hey, are you guys ready for Wi-Fi 6?
Was there a Wi-Fi 5? Did I
Nope.
miss something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nope. I mean, there was, but it wasn't named Wi-Fi 5.
I mean, can I first comment? Because your thumbnail for this is the most artisanal beard I've ever seen. Like, bespoke, single gear fixie beard.
Can you speak English next time you talk?
He looks like the kind of guy who plays Ultimate Frisbee.
Speaking of which, wearing my
Dude.
Frisbee shirt. Diego Ultimate Disc Experience. Anyway,
Let the world see it.
Disc. Disc.
Dude.
this was the only time I've played Ultimate in a league. 2013. Then I had kids, and now I can't play at night. But anyway, Wi-Fi 6. I stopped following any of the standards. I kind of just whatever comes with my laptop, whatever router I have, or wireless, whatever access point. I just kind of deal with the 802.11 NA, whatever is there. Never really thinking much about it, just figuring I'm on the latest standard. And then I watched this video, and first of all, blew my mind with how wireless worked in the past and why when you go to a conference, all of a sudden things get bogged down and don't work so well.
Yeah, like a switch. It's
No.
like a switch versus a hub.
Right. It's like a hub, not a switch.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. And that's the exact analogy he uses in there. So I'm assuming you watch that, or was that your own?
No, I've had to roll out Wi-Fi in my house recently.
Mm-hmm. So yeah,
been
that's the
unpleasant.
exact analogy he uses. And then it was just fascinating to watch. And then he explained why Wi-Fi 6 is going to be so much better. And I'm excited for it. Probably the first time I've been excited for some sort of Wi-Fi standard. And it's all thanks to a good old
Except
YouTube.
It'll take Apple 6 years before they actually put it in your laptop, and then it's going to be Wi-Fi 6 Apple, which isn't compatible with any actual Wi-Fi 6 stuff. So you keep
Well,
open, John.
Somebody
Yeah,
was
but-
just looking at
Oh, I'm sorry,
Uh,
you don't. God,
MacBooks.
bless you.
What are you talking about?
I don't know.
Somebody was just looking at
What's going
the MacBooks. MacBooks are still shipping out with 5,400 RPM hard drives. So I give it 10 years till
no,
they
they're
move
not.
up to this. Yeah, they are.
Most of them have SSDs, or
Yeah, they have solid
Good.
state. All the ones I see have solid state. I haven't seen any with fitting disk in a while.
Well, the ones that do,
Look
I'm
at
sorry,
Tom.
it's the new iMac. Louis Rossmann, who is constantly under threat from Apple,
I love that guy.
was reporting on the newest
that
iMac having
repair
a
guy?
5,400 RPM.
Yeah, they're up
Oh,
in New York.
Yeah, like yeah.
Yeah, he's the guy who keeps pissing off Apple by pointing out how horribly money grubbing they've become.
Yeah, we still keep supporting them.
I don't.
Well,
Speaking of support, let's thank our Patreon. Patrons?
patrons, just
We
patrons.
Patreons.
Nope, just
We
patrons.
appreciate your support. You guys argue about it for a little bit. I'll just keep the slide up there.
Patreons.
Patrons on Patreon. That's the way they all the other YouTubers or content creators say it. All the successful ones, anyway.
Patreons on Patreon.
Patrons on Patreon.
It is patrons.
Yeah, even Patreon says that.
Yeah.
So
But anyway,
thank
thank you,
for your
everyone.
support. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you very much.
You help keep the lights on and the show going.
No, they don't.
Hopefully one day.
The only thing we've used their money for was to mail them their gifts. That's all we've done with it.
Hopefully one day I'll get one of them.
Oh, see, you need to.
Thomas, you need.
We're not like the
you need
ACA.
to look at John. John is like a buff individual. I was noticing his physique today. Oddly enough, not only has he gotten like super thin, but he's like got muscle mass now. He got little guns on his arms. It was
Alarm guns.
it was surprising. I feel safer with him in the office now.
You have to go to the veterinarian because his pythons are so sick.
Oh my! We need to go to the gym more often.
I love the fact that the microphone clearly picked up Eric's Santa-like chuckle and then belly slap. While talking about the physical prowess of John. Yeah, I can imagine that the all-vegan CrossFit going to bed at 9 o'clock.
Rock climbing, frisbee chasing.
Rock climbing, child rearing.
Satanist. Oh, wait, this wasn't Satanist.
Yeah, I can believe that diet does have positive physical benefits for some reason.
Just slightly. I was more concerned with the health benefit than the losing weight benefit, but I'll take the weight loss as well.
Just don't take my guns away.
He's not allowed to wear long sleeve shirts anymore because he doesn't have a permit in case they carry concealed weapons. That took way too long to explain.
I think I can almost do a full pull-up now. I'm really close.
We call that a full up in the industry.
That's been my that's been a goal of mine for so many years.
Thomas, I'd have to applaud you. I see in our Discord we were baited and you did not go for it. That was very.
I didn't. I haven't. I was asked. I was asked if I'd be criticizing Laravel this week, and I got nothing to say. I will say this: when I was writing my scripts for
here we go. Hold on,
managing my DNS stuff,
yeah.
I opted to use plain PHP instead of even bother with a framework at all. So my whole week has been completely in plain PHP, and the only thing I've missed is DD instead of printar and die.
Yep.
But you can pull in a package and use dump instead of DD.
I haven't missed it that much.
Yeah, because I use that.
Dump.
Yeah, I forget what the actual package was, but
I think it's dump.
I
think it's dump.
Well, that's stupid. They call it that.
Actually, it might be called take a dump. I'm not sure. I would have to look.
Symphony var dumper.
Take a dump.
Yeah, that is it. Yes.
Oh god.
Yeah.
What?
You guys ready for the last bit of tonight? Because I'm beat.
Yeah.
PHP Fig, PHP Fig, which exists despite losing all of its members, has released PSR 14, the Event Dispatcher PSR. If you want to check it out, there's a whole Reddit thread explaining how stupid it is and why this is completely unnecessary, doesn't help anybody, and it's a clusterfuck. No one cares about the PSRs anymore. The work is done. The group needs to just disband.
You think?
They're not doing anything worthwhile right now.
There's no need for them anymore.
I mean, they're tackling event dispatching, which just seems like that's a pointless thing for you guys to be taking on.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that? I was moving us on. Did you see that they're currently voting on the JIT compiler?
Internals.
Yeah.
Are you talking about internals?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
Oh, actually, it closed today. Been open for a week.
Pass?
This project requires a 2/3 plus 1. I see a 50 yeses, 2 nos. So I guess it passed.
Wow.
Yeah, I talked about on the show that it was losing some support and that people were going to have to come in from the Windows environment side to fix things up, but everything just sort of came together and it actually looks like it's going to exist now.
In PHP 8, not in 7.4.
I did not see that part.
I think they made that announcement sometime back. I don't think that's anything new. I think they mentioned that sometime back.
Well, they were talking about having it in 7.4 as a toggleable feature.
Well, okay. I don't know.
Yeah, 7.4 experimental, but that was shot down 36 to 18.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So it's definitely happening in 8 now.
It looks like it. That's good news.
Are there results on this thread here that I'm looking at?
I posted the link in Trello.
Yeah, it passed 50 to 2. That's pretty good.
That fellow's not updating. 50.
So it was
it's in the wiki.php.net.
It was rejected from 7.4 experimental 18 to 36, but it was accepted into 8 50 to 2.
Yep.
So looks good.
Cool.
Hey, we ended on some PHP.
Yay!
Guys.
Yay!
That means we can officially end the show right here. It's been a good one.
You need to do your podcaster voice again, John. Thank you for listening to PHP Ugly, episode 146.
Six. All right, you got it. I'm John Congdon.
I'm Eric Van Jensen.
I'm Tom Rideout.
Keep
it ugly. Woo!
Here's the music playing. Where's the music? Didn't I put music in here now? I think I got music going. Here we go. Boom, boom. Got a little music going in the background. Discord, if you're listening, tell me if that's too loud. Mr. Dorinda, what are you trying to do? Trying to bait my good friend Thomas Rideout. You know he can't stop when he starts complaining about Lair.
I am a complainer addict. Hold on 1 second.
I think we've all been guilty of bashing Laravel recently, so.
Not I. I never bash him.
Oh, I see. You put it on next discussion. That's why I couldn't find it. Damn it.
Oh.
Look over on your Trello. Let's see those guns, Jen. Show me the guns.
Weirdo.
In the ass. I swear to God. Man, we didn't even do doom and gloom. Don't tell Thomas if we got to do doom and gloom this year. This week. This year. That was a horrible show, man. Oh my God. That was horrible. Everybody was and low and didn't talk any code. I need to take the trash out. Take the trash out tonight and replace the bags in the morning.
All right. That was fun. I'm going to stop the
Thomas.
recording.
Oh, yes, local recording. Stop your local recording.
I already did. I'm uploaded. Although I don't know if it's gonna work.
I thought you were. I might have been really drunk one day, but didn't you say you were going to create a Roku app for us?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I thought I remember you saying something about that.
And it was going to be that weekend too.
Yeah, it was going to be
It
like
was
some
gonna be.
crazy turnaround. Yeah.
Yeah. It's still really easy, except that it uses its own markdown language.
Uh-huh.
And so I've got my TV set up so that I can import custom apps into the TV.
Mm-hmm.
There's a special code for the Roku remote that like triggers this developer mode.
Mm-hmm.
I got that working, and I got the Hello World app and everything going, and I started getting into the docs for the markdown language, and I basically just got way too busy.
Yeah.
But it's still an open tab on my machine.
Well, I still think it'd be a cool thing to have. And now that Michael Dorinda heard us talking about it, they'll try to do it first. So, I mean, not that it's a competition or anything, but you know,
That's true.
we always do cooler things before they do. Just saying.
We've got the lanyards. Well, I mean, you've got the lanyards.
Yeah, got the lanyards. Everybody's got the lanyards. Thomas, except you. We have
Yeah.
listeners that have our lanyards.
It's
Oh.
depressing.
I gotta get you your package, buddy.
I
I
gotta
apologize. Busy couple weeks. All right. Are we
My
done?
wife and I have a group of friends that are at the bar, like a new circle of friends that we're now constantly involved with, and we've gone back to our old barfly lifestyles.
Oh, there you go.
We need to reel that in a little bit.
Was that the story, or was there anything about these friends?
We on the air?
Well, yeah. When we stop.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Alrighty, let's do that. Good night, everybody. Thanks for listening. We got private things to talk about.